All right, here's a couple of good questions to solve. This first one seems a little funny because it has an extra the fourth in it. But let's just see what we can do with that. If it has an extra fourth, let's just see if we can treat it as if it were an x squared, like a quadratic. So I'll subtract 35 from both sides. Then I'll look to factor. Two things that multiply to negative 35 add to 2 would be a positive 7 and a negative 5. And then what do you suppose I'm going to put right there and there? Yeah, probably an x squared and an x squared equals 0. Now, since I have something times something equals 0, I can set either of those to 0. But they're a quadratic function. But I can solve each of these using the square root principle. So let's subtract 7 on both sides and add 5 on both sides and then use the square root principle, remembering to put a plus or minus in. So with this one, I'll have x is equal to a plus or minus square root of negative 7. Now, square root of negative 7 isn't a number in the real numbers, it's a complex number. So it depends on what the question asks. If they say what is the answers in the real number system, then I won't be able to use that. But if they said complex, then what I would do is I would change this just slightly to root of 7 times root of negative 1. Root of 7 stays, but the square root of negative 1 in the complex number systems is just known as I. So you could say plus or minus root 7i, or on this side, square root principle, plus or minus. So I get x is equal to plus or minus square root 5. And I can't simplify that anymore. So if they ask for real numbers, those would be my only two answers, a plus root 5 and a minus root 5. If they ask for complex answers, I need to include those two. Here's another question you're, again, solving. This one, rather than using the square root principle, I need to use the square principle. With this question, I don't mind this question. I might have written it like this, just to make you do a little bit more work. I might have said that's the question, solve for x. And so the first thing you need to do to solve this is you need to isolate that radical. So you'd add both x to both sides. So square root of 2x plus 14 is equal to x plus 2. Okay, and that's where we've started here. So now I'll use the square principle. Whoops. So I'll square this side to cancel that out. And if I do it there, I've got to do it on this side. So on the left side, I'm left with 2x plus 14 equals, on the right side, it's a binomial squared, so I like to write out 2 and then FOIL it. So plus 2x plus another 2x would be plus 4x plus 4 equals 2x plus 14. Now there's a quadratic in the game, so I'm going to move everything to one side. So I'll subtract 2x there, subtract it there, subtract 14, subtract 14. So I get 0 is equal to x squared plus 2x minus 10. Now at this point, I'm thinking it'd be real nice to factor that. But things that multiply to 10 and add to 2, 2 and 5 adds to 3. So I can't factor it, so I'll immediately go to the quadratic formula. So minus b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So b is a 2, a is a 1, and c is a minus 10, and a is a 1. So x is equal to minus 2 plus or minus the square root of, this would be 4 plus 40 all over 2. Or minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 44 over 2, which I would even simplify that 44, because it's the same as root 4 times root 11 all over 2. And the square root of 4 is 2. You see where I'm going here now? Now what I have is a common denominator. So it's minus 2 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 11 over 2. So the 2's here divide into each other to give you a 1 plus or minus 1 root 11. And I don't think you have to put this one in, but this one you do. So negative 1 plus or minus root 11. Negative 1 plus or minus root 11. So I would probably initially be going for that answer. But if I were to plug the negative version, negative 1 minus root 11, into the equation right there, and there, I don't think that it works out. Like negative 1 minus root 11, that'd be like minus 4 plus 2. I'd have a negative number on this side. And there's no way I can take the square root of anything to give me a negative. So I would rule that one out. So I would probably say that my only answer is that one. Hopefully that helps you with those two questions.